To develop potentially life-saving drugs for humans, scientists conduct trials on animals.
It is incontrovertible that we need non-human primates for life-saving research.
Primates are in high demand and short supply. And with a single monkey costing up to $40,000, a global black market has emerged.
They know
darn well these primates are going to end up smuggled into another country, United States or somewhere else, and that they could potentially be carrying diseases that could be spread to human beings. They don't care.
In Cambodia, whistleblowers have exposed alleged government involvement in trafficking wild monkeys.
More safe.
I understand.
For your smuggling.
I understand.
As scientists work on alternatives to animal testing, some are helping give monkeys new lives beyond the laboratory.
Quand on travaille avec des singes, ça implique une lourde responsabilité. La retraite des animaux de laboratoire, ça n'existait pas.
101 East examines the global trade in monkeys for scientific research. Cambodia is home to an animal that's in high demand around the world: monkeys. The most populous in this Southeast Asian nation are the long-tailed macaques. Intelligent, social animals who live in the forests, towns, and along waterways. This fishing village, Anlong Taong, was once a paradise for them. Chia Serene has spent most of his life on the water. He is a fisherman, just like others in his family. But things are different now from when he was a boy. In 2022, long-tailed macaques were declared an endangered species. Today, he's taking us to the banks of the Tonle Sap Lake in central Cambodia. He says that he used to see monkeys in droves here, hunting for crabs.
Ơi, tam này, bị muôn máu, sợ xóa cho xí này, tam một cái đèn này, rồi bố nè, là chắp nó khơi đánh bia tới, chẳng việc ở đâu vậy o, rồi chẳng có việc ngày cày lớn việc con là khơi mà nó khai vào đầu.
The monkeys are frightened for good reason. Traffickers capture and sell them to the highest bidder for biomedical research. This black market trade not only endangers wild primate populations, but puts public health at risk, because unlike captive bred monkeys, there's no guarantee the animals are pathogen-free.
Ở đây này, người ta miên mua $150, mà vì bị muôn máu, nông phun mà phun mà phun tinh pi từ bay nè nó, ấy cái gió mà cái lô đôi khi mà cái lô pi kham cho. Ôi xã anh nên tầm bao anh nên là lọt thì vì cái nào nó sân cái rắp tao nó đặt từ mà đo còn đặt từ khang của vùng luồng thì cho nó thì vô từ pin nhở.
Global demand soared when China banned primate exports at the start of the pandemic. Today, all kinds of monkeys can be bought easily in Cambodia. In August 2023, dozens of macaques were seized from a smuggling operation on the Thai-Cambodia border. It isn't an isolated case. Trafficked macaques are frequently discovered in Southeast Asia. 102 were found crammed in bags and crates in 2021. Many were dead or seriously injured. Where they were being trafficked to is unknown. A year later, monkey smuggling hit the headlines again, this time in the US.
8 people, including top officials in the Cambodian government, have been charged with running a smuggling ring that brought endangered monkeys.
In November 2022, a senior Cambodian government official was arrested in New York. Masfal Krai, Deputy Director for Wildlife and Biodiversity, was on his way to a global conference on protecting endangered species. He was indicted by the US along with his boss, Omar Liskio, the Director General of Cambodia's Forestry Administration, and 6 members of a primate export company. They are accused of illegally exporting thousands of wild macaques since 2017. This hidden camera footage reveals Krai overseeing a delivery of long-tailed macaques at Vani Bio Research. He can be seen offering advice on how to move the smuggled monkeys more easily.
Why don't you make another road?
People, I think. But
You
actually,
buy right here there and then make your own road.
Oh, I think I need to ask my boss.
Yeah.
I'm not that kind of rich people.
If you make another road, it means more safe
I understand.
for your smuggling.
I understand.
Ed Newcomer worked on similar cases for 20 years as a counter-trafficking special agent.
Right away, there are some things I'm hearing that definitely seem incriminating. When you're talking to somebody about smuggling while you're dropping off primates, that's definitely a clue that people have intent and know that they're violating the law. They clearly have a system in place.
He would know. Before he retired, Newcomer investigated and captured traffickers from all over the world. The charges against senior government officials may have attracted international attention, but he wasn't surprised by the Cambodian case.
That is something that's always been on our radar screen, and so in Southeast Asia, when Cambodia started to get into the captive bred primate business, it was something we paid attention to closely, because Cambodia is a center or a point of wildlife trafficking that's been well known. It's a global problem, it's a big dollar problem, and it's going to be difficult to solve.
To learn more about the company accused of smuggling endangered wild macaques to the US, we traveled to Pursat province in the west of Cambodia, where the secret video was filmed. Vani Bio Research breeds and exports macaques for biomedical research. There are reportedly tens of thousands of macaques in the 99-acre farm, but the facility stopped exports after Krai was arrested. The company refused our requests for an interview. Outside the facility, we meet a former employee who agrees to speak with us anonymously.
កន្លែងជាការឋានចំស្វាក្នុងអាគារដូចជាស្វា200ក្បាលជាងហើយបាត់ជាលបងខ្ពស់មែនប៉ុន្តែក៏អាចមានស្វារួចដែរពណ៌ក្រហមអានឹងអាគារស្វាសម្រាប់ស្វានាំចេញហើយអាគារនោះនឹងស្វាគេដាក់អាគារធម្មតាស្វាធម្មតាដូចជាស្វាប្រកាត់ឬក៏ស្វាផើមអីចឹង
Vani Bio Research began operating in Cambodia in 2002. The former worker says its operations have skyrocketed in recent years.
ពីមុនម្នាក់ដូចជាមើលតែ9អាគារឬក៏10អីចឹងដល់ឥឡូវវាគុណ2ឡើង20អីទៅរាប់ទៅមើលក្នុង 3-4,000 ក្បាលក្នុងម្នាក់ហើយតែដល់ពេលស្វាងាប់ វានៅតែរករឿងយើងដែរវាមានគិតថាឲ្យយើងមើលស្វាច្រើនអាបរិមាណស្វានឹងវាច្រើនមនុស្សតិចអីវាមានគិតចឹងទេ
He alleges that workers inside the farm also risk serious injury.
គេមានត្រង់គេចាប់ស្វាស្មូលត្រង់ធំស្វាញីហ្នឹងអាចចាប់ដៃបានតែបើខ្លះអ្នកចាប់ទៅគេគាត់អាងថាអីដល់ចាប់ទៅផ្លាត់ស្វាខំនិយាយទៅវាហក់មកខំរយខំមុខខំក្បាលខំជើងឲ្យថាយើងប្រហែសអាខ្លះគេអាងគេស្ទាត់ជំនាញធ្វើការរប់ឆ្នាំទៅអត់មានយកត្រង់យកទៅចាប់ទៅចាប់ដៃហ្នឹងអាពិតស្វាវាមានខ្សោយណាបានខ្លាំងដែរហ្នឹងហើយ
He says that he complained to management but was fired. He suspects that not all the monkeys are bred inside the farm.
ដឹងប្រហែលចឹងព្រោះវាច្រើនដែរវាកើតមិនទាន់
US authorities accuse Vanny Bayer of conspiring with corrupt Cambodian government officials to acquire wild macaques for export, falsely labeling them as captive bred.
I mean, to see the very first two people indicted to be in the Director General and Deputy Director positions of a foreign government's agencies responsible for protecting their wildlife, it's not often that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service agents actually obtain enough evidence to file charges against government officials in a foreign nation.
Newcomer says wild-caught monkeys could have ended up anywhere in the U.S.
The ultimate purchasers of these primates could be anybody involved in primate research. You know, it might be a university, it might be a lab, or even a research hospital. There's only a few U.S. companies that are involved in actually doing the importations. Right now, there is no charge or allegation indicating that any U.S. company was aware that these primates were not captive raised but came from the wild. But the investigation is still open.
Cambodian officials Masfal Krai and Omar Liskio deny the charges against them. If found guilty, they face up to 145 years in a U.S. prison. Their lawyers did not respond to our request for comment, but in court called the indictment a full-on assault on a foreign ministry, a claim backed by the Cambodian government. But it isn't just about the law. For Newcomer, traffickers put profit before the environment, leading to a huge loss of animal life.
As agents, we used to say that, you know, if you want to smuggle 50 whatever, animals, parrots, monkeys, if you want to smuggle 50, you need to smuggle 100 because about 50% of what you're smuggling is going to die. And that's just part of doing business. So, yeah, I mean, this type of thing, every agent in the service has seen this type of thing before. And, yeah, we all hate it, and that's why we do the job that we do.
Back in Cambodia, others are speaking out. This man, who we'll call Chan, says he's witnessed the cruelty of the trade firsthand.
តើតោនឹងការដែលយើងដែលខ្ញុំបានដឹងរឿងនៃការគេទិញដូរស្វានេះគឺអ្នកដែលចិត្តដាច់នេះខ្ញុំចង់សំដៅលើអ្នកដែលរស់ស៊ីទាំងអស់នេះគឺគាត់មានខ្សែបណ្ដាញតាក់ទងនឹងការរត់ពន្ធនាំចេញនាំចូលអញ្ចឹងយើងមិនដឹងថានៅពីក្រោយខ្នងគាត់មានអ្វីខ្លះគឺនិយាយទៅប្រជាជនតែងតែព្រួយបារម្ភពីចំណុចសុវត្ថិភាពរបស់គាត់ពេលដែលគាត់និយាយពាក់ព័ន្ធនឹងរឿងដែលផ្លូវច្បាប់បែបហ្នឹង
The monkeys live in the trees near these fields, hidden in the canopy. During the harvest season, they go searching for food among the crops. That's when the traffickers strike.
យើងធ្វើដីឲ្យ clear ឲ្យស្អាតហើយយើងដាក់ចំណីកដាលចំណីយើងដាក់កដាលចេះហើយខ្សែមួយយើងចំមកនេះខ្សែមួយទៀតយើងចំមួយបកគោលមុខនោះចឹងទៅគេរៀបចំកន្លែងមួយដែលគេហៅថាស៊ុំហ្នឹងនៅខាងមុខដើម្បីចាំឃ្លាំមើលថាតើស្វាចុះមកស៊ីអត់តើកាលណាស្វាចុះមកស៊ីគេទាញខ្សែពុបចឹងទៅអាសំណាញ់ដែលកាប់ដីវាឡើងមកគ្របពីលើគ្នាចេះចឹងស្វាអាចរត់ទៅណារួចទេ
The poachers then sell the animals for about $150 each.
ពេលដែលចាប់ស្វាបានហើយនឹងមានឈ្មួញមកទិញហើយឈ្មួញគេយកឡានមកដឹកខ្លួនគេពីកន្លែងដែលគាត់ចាប់ស្វាហ្នឹងយ៉ាងស្ងៀមស្ងាត់បំផុតនេះគឺគេចាប់ផ្ដើមជ្រើសពីទម្ងន់1គីឡូកន្លះទៅដល់3គីឡូក្រាមហើយក្នុងនោះស្វាត្រូវតែស្អាតទាំងអស់មិនមានរបួសមិនមានបាក់ដៃមិនមានបាក់កន្ទុយមិនមានឆែបត្រចៀកនិងមិនមានបាក់ធ្មេញគឺស្វាមិនអាចយកស្វាចាស់ពេកទេគឺស្វាដែលមានរូបរាងដែលយើងហៅថាជំទង់ស្អាតកំណើននៃការចាប់សត្វស្វាយកទៅលក់ហើយខ្ញុំក៏ព្រួយបារម្ភអំពីការបាត់បង់សត្វស្វាទាំងអស់នេះពីព្រៃរបស់កម្ពុជាយើងដូចគ្នាតើតើនឹងការខ្លាចបាត់បង់នេះដោយសារខ្ញុំជាមនុស្សម្នាក់ដែលស្រឡាញ់និងចូលចិត្តចិញ្ចឹមសត្វហើយសត្វស្វាវាមានទម្រង់រូបរាងវាមានសតិបញ្ញាវាស្តៀងទៅនឹងមនុស្សដូចគ្នាហើយខ្ញុំមានការអាណិតពួកវាមែនតែនពេលដែលយើងដឹងថាគេយកពួកវាទៅជួញដូរទៅខាងក្រៅដោយយើងមិនដឹងថាការជួញដូរទាំងអស់ហ្នឹងគឺគេយកវាទៅដល់ទីណា
Records show that Cambodia exports primates listed as bred in captivity all over the world, but mainly to the US as well as Japan and China. But it's getting increasingly difficult to transport them. Following campaigns by major animal rights groups, all major airlines have stopped carrying monkeys used in research. Air France stopped in 2022.
I'm very pleased to be here with you today.
The ban was a win for activists, but for researchers in France, this was a problem. French labs use more primates than anywhere else in the EU. At the National Center for Scientific Research in Marseille, veterinarian and animal welfare officer Dr. Ivan Balassa says that non-human primates are needed to conduct potentially life-saving medical research.
Les singes représentent très peu d'animaux utilisés en recherche, mais il reste des modèles extrêmement importants pour certaines maladies, notamment des maladies neurologiques, la maladie d'Alzheimer, la maladie de Parkinson, la sclérose en plaques. Et il reste aussi très important pour évaluer les candidats médicaments pour l'homme et pour s'assurer que ces médicaments ne poseront pas de risque justement chez l'homme, mais aussi qu'ils seront efficaces. Et en particulier pour toutes les nouvelles thérapies, ce qu'on appelle les médicaments biologiques, notamment pour le cancer.
The Institute's research has helped develop treatments for conditions like epilepsy and Parkinson's disease. However, Dr. Balansa says that the shortage of lab monkeys has put a stop to some research projects.
Pendant la pandémie, beaucoup de singes ont été utilisés pour comprendre la pathogénie du SARS-CoV-2 et pour aboutir à des vaccins contre le Covid. Et depuis 2020, on a assisté à donc une augmentation des prix qui est considérable. Aujourd'hui, un primate peut se vendre à plus de 30 000 €, là où il y a 3-4 ans, il en valait 5 000.
On est dans un moment très critique où on a une pénurie, on a des projets financés qui sont arrêtés parce qu'on n'a pas les modèles animaux pour pouvoir les poursuivre. Et ça, c'est extrêmement problématique.
These macaques will be operated on to study Parkinson's disease. Electrodes will be implanted into their brains to research the roots of the neurological condition. The monkeys arrived 6 months ago from Mauritius, where they were bred in captivity to comply with EU regulations.
En Europe, on est obligé non seulement d'avoir des animaux qui sont nés en captivité, mais aussi des animaux nés en captivité de parents nés en captivité, ce qu'on appelle en fait des animaux de deuxième génération. Donc en fait, il n'y a aucun animal prélevé dans la nature. En Europe, c'est formellement interdit.
Some scientists are now using other primates, particularly the common marmoset from Brazil.
On peut aussi mieux comprendre certains comportements, de développement de comportements. Et ça peut aussi expliquer certains comportements qu'on peut retrouver dans certaines maladies chez l'homme, notamment dans certains syndromes de l'autisme par exemple.
Dr. Balansa says primates are vital for future scientific breakthroughs.
Toutes les nouvelles thérapies qui ont fait qu'aujourd'hui des cancers qui donnaient 6 mois de survie il y a 30 ans permettent à des gens de vivre 10 ans, 15 ans, 20 ans. Tout ça, c'est du réel, c'est du concret.
Voilà, donc,
moi, je me fais arracher à Charlotte, voilà.
Voilà. Ah bah ça y est.
Désolée.
Oh, tu sens bon des cheveux.
The institute is funded by the French government and subject to strict animal welfare checks. But activists say not all labs across the globe respect such regulations. Frederick Mühlen works on undercover operations for the German animal welfare group Soko Tierschutz.
We are an investigation organization, so that means that we try to go to the places where animals are suffering, and then we do footage of it, we find whistleblowers, and we bring out the information to the public.
Mühlen says that he and his colleagues have been threatened and sued by those they expose. He now works out of a secret location in Germany. Over the last 2 decades, Soko has conducted dozens of undercover operations. These images were filmed in 2013 inside Germany's prestigious science research organization, the Max Planck Institute.
In the study papers for this laboratory, it was said that it's mandatory that the primates volunteer in the testings. That's ridiculous anyway, because we know monkeys, they don't volunteer. But it was said, and the studies were only legal with this volunteering. And here we see a primate volunteering. They forced them with violence out of their cages.
The Max Planck Institute initially said it found no serious shortcomings in its operations. But 4 years later, it said it had suspended one of its researchers from certain roles because of alleged violations of animal protection laws. In 2019, Soko undertook another investigation in Germany, going undercover at a research lab in Hamburg run by LPT.
LPT is a contract research laboratory. So most people think that the big pharmaceutical companies are doing the animal testings themselves. This is not true. They outsource the stuff. They outsource the bloody, dirty work.
The non-profit claimed that the test results were being manipulated.
One monkey died, they just changed the tattoo number, and so the study can go on without interruptions. That's a huge $1 million project. And so it was not good that this animal died. And so they just took another animal from their stock, exchanged them. They changed the tattoo numbers. And our worker was forced to use the wrong tattoo number in the documents. People in the LPT, our undercover investigator, confronted with this manipulation, said, yeah, we're doing this, we cut out the tattoo numbers, it's done on a regular basis.
Manipulating data is not just unethical, it compromises drug testing. But that isn't all. Soko also found that the origins of many of the monkeys were untraceable.
In a study paper, they don't say the final origin of the monkey. They just say, okay, it came by this wholesaler in the Netherlands. In Germany, you can trace an egg much easier than a primate.
This branch of LPT was shut down after Soko's revelations.
We in a society have ethnical borders. We have to look to the animals, and we see that they may not react in the same way like us, but they feel in the same way pain. They understand what's happening with them, especially primates.
Half half a world away is the country at the center of the global primate trade, the United States. Under the blazing desert sun in central Arizona is a heavily secured facility. Behind these fences live hundreds of monkeys. The Washington National Primate Research Center is off limits to the public, but its director, Michelle Basso, has agreed to take us inside.
So as you can see, we have a high level of security at our facility. The outer perimeter of the facility, we have fencing with barbed wire as well as security cameras. And also in the inner perimeter of the facility, we have the same fencing and camera system. And the reason we have this security is to, of course, protect our animals, but also because there are a number of special interest groups who are opposed to the kind of work that we do, and so we need to protect our employees.
There are 467 pig-tailed macaques at the center.
Hi.
They're bred here to be used for research.
The animals are born here. We do not have animals from the wild. These are all purpose-bred animals, and we provide them as a resource to biomedical and behavioral research scientists across the United States. They stay with their families, so the moms and her babies and their siblings are living together.
95% of animals used in labs are rats and mice. But scientists say that primates are essential for studies in fields like neuroscience.
One of the things that I'm trying to understand is to unravel the complexity of the brain. The brain is the single most complicated organ in the universe, and we don't understand it at all. One area in particular is called the prefrontal cortex. It's the region of the brain that's right in the front here. Rodents and mice don't have that region of the brain, but non-human primates do, monkeys do. And that's one critical reason why we need to continue to study those animals, because it's that region of the brain that goes bad in diseases like schizophrenia, depression, autism.
The primates are purpose-bred in captivity to minimize the risk of spreading infectious disease to humans and other animals. It can be a slow process. The female macaques here give birth every year, but all of the monkeys have to be at least 4 years old before they can be used for neuroscience research. Today, the staff have just discovered this monkey is pregnant.
This is her uterus right here. Yes. Right here is just an image of the baby's, the fetus's spine. It's really rewarding knowing that we can do these ultrasounds with the animals remaining in their enclosure. We don't have to separate them from their group.
But the US doesn't breed enough monkeys to meet the demand from the country's labs. To cover the shortfall, it imports more primates than any other nation. China was the main supplier until it banned exports in 2020, after the COVID-19 pandemic hit. In January 2023, a US government report concluded that the shortage of monkeys for research was at a crisis point.
Arguably, the last century and current century, the medical discoveries have all been based in medical research using animals. The COVID vaccine is a perfect example of that. It is incontrovertible that we need non-human primates for life-saving research. The shortage of primates available for biomedical and behavioral research has definitely impacted medical discovery and scientific discovery. It's slowing down research progress.
Basso says the solution is for the US to breed all of its lab animals in captivity.
It's imperative that the United States become self-sufficient and not rely on other countries for their supply of resources for biomedical research, and that includes non-human primates.
Since China's export ban, the US has depended on countries like Cambodia and Mauritius to supply lab monkeys. Until recently, Cambodia's Vani Bio Research was the largest exporter of long-tailed macaques to the US. The farm exported more than 40,000 live macaques to the US from 2020 to 2022. But US authorities allege that some of those animals were smuggled in illegally. Former counter-trafficking agent Ed Newcomer says he witnessed such activities throughout his career.
People are selling animals that are raised in a captive environment completely legally in accordance with international law and US law. But quite frequently, those industries are used to launder wild-caught animals that are captured from the wild, brought into these facilities, and then sold as if they were raised captively. An obvious way to go ahead and smuggle is to falsify those documents.
Today, he's speaking at an event organized by Freeland, a counter-trafficking NGO.
We've got Ed Newcomer, former federal special agent.
We always send undercover agents to those to scope it out, because inevitably, if you ask the right questions, you have the right knowledge, and you have the right amount of cash, there is always going to be an illegal animal for sale at those shows under the table.
Newcomer says animals aren't just trafficked alive.
It may be parts of their bodies come in for medical research, and that could be as small as a tiny skin sample or even a blood sample or some other fluid or tissue sample that, looking at it, you might not even know that that came from a primate. It's almost impossible to track that back to any kind of record keeping.
Even with live monkeys, it's not easy to glean information.
Often, when one of our wildlife inspectors goes to inspect a shipment of primates, they're forced to essentially peer through a small window into a dark container. And when you're looking through a small porthole window at a bunch of eyes looking back at you, really all you can do is estimate how many animals are in that shipment. You can't really do a physical inspection of their bodies to determine whether or not it's consistent with being captive raised versus wild. So it's very difficult.
Selling wild-caught animals isn't just a conservation problem. It could have dire consequences for human health.
They know darn well these primates are going to end up smuggled into another country, United States or somewhere else, and that they could potentially be carrying diseases that could be spread to human beings. They don't care. They care about themselves, but they don't care about anybody else.
And Southeast Asia isn't their only target. Al Jazeera has obtained an internal Indian government memo from May 2022, which warned wildlife officials that a US research lab was allegedly attempting to illegally source monkeys from the country. A spokesperson for the company denied the allegations. India's Wildlife Crime Control Bureau declined to provide further information. In New Delhi, primatologist Anindya Sinha says that India is an easy target for traffickers. With its large population of rhesus macaques, the country was once the world's biggest exporter of wild primates.
A lot of medical research became dependent on the rhesus macaque. right? And India was an important source of these macaques for the Western laboratories.
But in 1978, India banned exports after reports that the US used monkeys in military weapons testing rather than for medical or vaccine tests as agreed. Monkeys are considered sacred by Hindus. Temples across the country are dedicated to the worship of the monkey god Hanuman.
Outside the temple, we have large groups of rhesus macaques, and they are tolerated because they are considered representations of Hanumanji.
That tolerance is one of the reasons why the rhesus macaque is now thriving.
Now, some species like the rhesus, the bonnet, and the long-tailed macaques have a natural, innate propensity to move towards human habitations, to coexist with people, live with them happily.
The macaques are so prolific that some Indian states have declared them vermin.
It is now believed that they are the second most successful primate in the world after humans, because their distribution is the largest distribution range amongst the non-human primates. And this became the reason why they became the laboratory primate of choice.
But they're not so popular in some affluent neighborhoods where monkey chasers like Lakshman Kumar are hired to drive them away.
बहुत नुकसान करते हैं पेड़ पौधे पे बाकी कोई गमला लगाता है तो नुकसान करते हैं हाँ जी ही ही ओ ही हट ही 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 हट हाँ जी
तो उसके बीच में भी बातचीत होता है
हाँ जी अब आपसे बात करते हैं
हाँ तो जब अभी अब देखें ना जब खाना मिलता है तो
हाँ करके आवाज निकालते हैं
ऐसे बुलाते हैं तो सब लोग आ जाते हैं एक दूसरे में आ जाते हैं पर अगर डर जाते हैं या गुस्सा आ जाता है तो गुस्सा दिखाते हैं
In May 2023, macaques were removed from India's protected species list, sparking fear among conservationists that exports could be legalized again or lead to trafficking. Sinha believes that we shouldn't underestimate the consequences of snatching animals from their natural habitats.
Family groups are separated and infants and juveniles are separated from their mothers, and it causes a tremendous amount of social disturbance in these populations which we just don't think about. And we know how cognitively and behaviorally sophisticated they are, how complex they are, and yet we put them into a cage under artificial lighting and keep them all their lives.
He also believes that science isn't the only factor to consider.
We keep thinking that if I have a degree, if I work in a research institution or a university, I'm best placed to understand the macaques. And so, if we do continue with animal experimentations, let's be aware of the impacts of our actions. Let us not claim that we don't harm, we don't hurt. We do, we exploit.
Back in the US, animal rights activists are protesting outside the University of Washington's Seattle campus.
So we're asking the University of Washington to shut down the primate lab, and there's an action on there where you can sign and urge the university to shut down the primate lab.
The university keeps more than 400 primates here. It's part of the Washington National Primate Research Center, run by Michelle Basso. She says she's frequently targeted by animal rights groups.
I received death threats, messages on my telephone, mailings to my home that were threatening, just disinformation about me, about my research, horrible things, protests at my home. I think that it would be wonderful if we as a society could have a civil conversation about the ethics of the use of animals in biomedical research and behavioral research. I think that's been very hard, if not impossible, in light of the polarization that topic produces.
Basso says it's vital that the use of primates for medical research is tightly controlled.
We want regulations. It's imperative that we have regulations. These are very precious animals, every one of them. It is very highly regulated. Multiple government sources, institutions oversee.
Some of the monkeys from the Arizona breeding lab are brought here for research. Today, Basso is conducting memory tests on 4 geriatric female macaques, which could help scientists understand memory loss in humans with Alzheimer's disease.
This is a very important, what we call cognitive memory task. We know that the memory, the delay time to remember decreases with age, and also it's very short to 0 in people who have age-related diseases like dementia and Alzheimer's. So we're looking at the animals to see whether we can see evidence for aging.
But some scientists are looking for new ways to reduce animal testing. In January 2023, the FDA, a US agency responsible for protecting public health, ruled it was no longer mandatory to test new drugs on animals.
Dr. Kelly.
Come on in.
Hi,
Pleased to meet you.
Michelle Basso. Really nice to meet you, too.
Dr. Ed Kelly is Associate Professor of Pharmaceutics at the University of Washington. He's working on new technology called organs on chips, which he believes could help reduce reliance on animals.
So what you're looking at here is a kidney chip, kidney on a chip. This is something that we've been using to complement animal studies. And so what we can use this system for is by putting in human cells, we can better predict how a drug or toxin or other compound is going to behave in humans. Because this type of technology complements animal safety data and animal testing. And the reason why this is a good complement to that is because these have human cells in them. Because they have human cells in them, we have a better way of predicting how something will behave in humans before we actually ever do a clinical trial.
Experimenting with human cells in this way could reduce the need for animal testing. But some parts of the body, such as the brain and the nervous system, cannot be reproduced effectively on a chip yet. There have also been advances in computer modeling using artificial intelligence.
Certainly we are nowhere near replacing animal testing with this technology. Physiology is far too complicated. So this is much more a reductionist approach to understand certain portions, in this case, of the kidney. And talking about complex interactions with many different organs is something that we're not at there yet. Human on a chip really would be at that forefront that, if it is fully functional, would allow us to replace animal testing. Are we there yet? Not by a long shot.
For now, scientists say primates remain crucial for biomedical research. But some are being given new lives beyond the laboratory. On the outskirts of Paris is La Tanière, a sanctuary for all kinds of animals, including those once used in scientific research. The sanctuary houses 22 retired lab monkeys from across Europe. This female rhesus macaque called Cannelle survived 19 years of experimentation in French labs. She was the first lab monkey to be given a new home at La Tanière.
Cannelle, quand elle est arrivée, elle était très dans la menace, très en retrait. La seule proximité qu'elle pouvait avoir avec l'humain, même à travers gris, c'était de la menace et de la provocation. Après, avec le temps, elle a commencé à se détendre un petit peu. Et je me rappelle de la première fois où Cannelle m'a fait du lip smack, c'était un petit peu le Saint Graal. Puis c'est un pincement de lèvres. C'est ce qu'ils font entre eux, c'est une mimique d'apaisement ou d'amitié.
Cannelle still has the occasional outburst. But the testing performed on her was not invasive, unlike Gromit. He was subjected to experimentation that involved interventions in the brain.
Gromit, il est arrivé ici, on va dire que c'est l'individu qui avait le plus de séquelles physiques et psychologiques. Gromit, il est arrivé, il avait une grosse plaie sur le dessus du crâne et à l'arrière du crâne. Mais il avait un trou ici et sur le dessus de la tête, donc il était très rancunier, il a été pendant très longtemps. Je pense que c'est celui qui a mis le plus de temps à s'adapter à sa nouvelle vie.
Dr. Ivan Balansa is responsible for bringing Gromit to the sanctuary. He used to perform surgical procedures on him at France's National Center for Scientific Research.
Je les ai vus pendant plus de 10 ans, ces animaux, tous les jours, plusieurs fois par jour. J'ai beaucoup interagi avec eux. J'ai été leur vétérinaire traitant, donc voilà, c'est un peu patient. Et puis, plus que ça, parce que j'ai un attachement avec ces animaux. Et donc de leur offrir une deuxième vie comme ça, je trouve que c'est quelque chose qui, moi, me touche beaucoup. Quand on travaille avec des singes, ça implique une lourde responsabilité.
Eventually, he decided that monkeys like Kennel and Gromit had had enough.
C'est des choses qui n'étaient pas dans l'air du temps. Il y a encore une dizaine d'années, en fait, la retraite des animaux de laboratoire, ça n'existait pas. Et donc, on a ouvert une petite porte avec ces animaux.
These monkeys would never survive in the wild after so many years inside research labs. For most, this is the first time in their lives that they've seen so much natural light and fresh air.
Ils ont beaucoup contribué, notamment à mieux comprendre certaines parties du cerveau et à développer notamment des rétines artificielles qui ont permis à des gens qui étaient aveugles de pouvoir retrouver une certaine partie de leur vue. Donc c'est des choses qui ont eu des conséquences extraordinaires pour des malades. Donc c'est important et ils ont contribué à ça.
Primate testing remains a deeply divisive issue, pitting scientists against animal rights activists, while smugglers benefit from the global demand. But as long as humans are able to lead longer, healthier lives thanks to monkeys like Kennel and Gromit, the question will persist: is their sacrifice justified?